Hi folks, it's Ivo here from Thundermist Lure Company. Nice to see you again and welcome to today's episode of Thundermist Fishing Tips. We've got a beautiful fall day here upon us. I'm fishing today with Antonio, as you know, our boatless angler from the Thundermist Fishing Types Boatless Angler Series. And we're out here in Port Dalhousie. It's early fall. We have about, I'm going to say an hour, make that an hour and almost an hour and a half of daylight left before it gets dark, and that's a perfect time. We're targeting salmon, and I'll show you my setup here. At this time of year you can catch salmon, you can catch trout. We're really trying to hook into a salmon today. And I've got a setup here with my favorite swivel, as you know, the T-turn swivel, off to a hook. And I'm going to, on this hook, I've got a nice jar of roe bags here that Antonio did up for us. And I'm going to put that roe bag right there on that hook, just like that, nicely. And then, as a little teaser on the top, I have another T-turn, and I've got a nice trembler fly here. It's the Trembler by Big John. Tied that for me, especially for today. And what I'd like to do with my flies, put a little bit of scent on them. And they will just absorb that scent, any kind of scent. If you have a game fish scent, that would be ideal. But that scent is just perfect. And the salmon will hone in on that and could strike on it, so it gives me a couple of chances. And because we're only out here for an hour and change, I've got my bait caster here as well. This is set up, rigged and ready to go in case I get hung up. I don't want to waste any time re-rigging. So this one doesn't have a trembler on it, but it's ready to go if need be. And when we're fishing here, we're really not fishing out far. It gets relatively deep, relatively quick. So I've got a heavy sinker on there, and the key with that heavy sinker is it's going to get me down there. There's a strong current, and I want that sinker to keep me in place. And unlike fishing in a boat where you've got to move around, at this time of year, all you want to do is stay stationary. The salmon are moving up from Lake Ontario. They're moving up these creeks and rivers, and they're in here to spawn. Basically, they come to spawn and die. That's what they're going to do. And so they're constantly on the move, and they're going upstream. So all you have to do is stay in one spot and just wait for the salmon to come by. And we're hoping to do just that. So stay tuned, folks. Between me and Antonio, we're hoping to have a great hour on the water. Oh, there's one. There's one. How do you like that? Oh, just like that, folks. I got a streamer on. Unbelievable. Oh, that's what I call fast action. Oh my goodness. Oh, he feels like a decent fish. Oh, that's a good one. Now, when you're fishing for salmon, in particular, you want to make sure you've got, this feels like a good fish. You definitely want to make sure you've got a good size reel with a lot of line, because as you just seen there, they're just screaming, and I've got that drag on tight. My goodness, this is no place for a smaller reel. And the other thing I'm doing, I've got braided line on here, and the braided line, the advantage of the braided line is that you can put a lot more line onto your spool. So if you do have a smaller reel, I gotta tell you, this thing's really strong. If you do have a smaller reel, at least with the braided line, it will allow you to hook into, and it'll allow you to spool up with a lot more line. I got a friendly angler here on shore helping me out here. This is what we ended up landing right there. An absolute beautiful brown trout. It's not a salmon, but it's a great start to our day. We just started fishing in the water for maybe less than a minute. And what a great bite that was, and what an absolute beautiful fish that is right there. So we're gonna get back in there. I really want to get into some salmon action, and the night's just started, so with any luck we'll get into a few more fish. But what a great start to our day right there. Gotta love that. Back out I go. Like I say, we're not casting out that far, and the salmon and the trout, obviously, they'll follow the shoreline. They'll come nice and close, especially as it gets darker here. It's no problem to fish close to the shoreline. They're not as afraid. They'll come right up, and you'll see them jumping close by too. So, well folks, here's your half-hour update. As you see, this rod's got 2 T-turns on it, and no sinker and no hook. I got into a snag, it's been a half an hour, and I'm switching over to my other rod with just the row bag, and I'll get it back out there. But I got to tell you, the reason I like that original setup with the row bag on the bottom and that trembler on the top was not because I caught a fish right away, mind you, that sure helps. But the main reason is because that row bag is down along the bottom and it's hovering around the bottom, and that trembler was a little bit higher up top, and the trembler with this current is just going to be waving around in there. So I'm covering both avenues there. I'm covering the very bottom and I'm covering a little bit higher. And those salmon, they're moving along the bottom and they're coming up and jumping. And the whole key to that setup is those T-turns. The T-turns. The T-turns keep you 100% tangle free while you're fishing out there. Allows my row bag to spin around, allows that streamer fly, that trembler to move around in the water, and it'll help trigger a bite, because these salmon aren't really feeding right now. They're moving up river to spawn, and they're not really on the bite, but they're always enticed by a little row bag. And in fact, if you use a spoon like the Python darter, or if you use a crankbait or an inline spinner, the salmon will hit those too, but I think they hit them more out of spite than they do out of hunger. It's a natural reflex for them. But the other thing I like to say, we got about another 20 minutes here, even if you don't fish, it's worth a walk in the fall if there's a river or a creek off of Lake Ontario, and just watching these salmon jump, because they really put on a great show. And I'm hoping to hook into one more fish here, myself or Antonio, before the end of the day. And like I said, I think we have about 20 minutes of, yeah, it's 6:45 right now. They said the sun's going down at 7. May get another 5 or 10 minutes after sundown, but we'll see how it goes. I did want to say one more thing. I always keep my rod in the ready position. When I'm fishing from shore like this, and I'm still fishing, I keep it right there in that position, and I'm in a great position to set the hook, as opposed to keeping your rod tilted in a higher position. This is the perfect position right there. All I'm doing now is just waiting for that bite, which in the past half hour, I must say, I got snagged up on the one, and I did have another bite that I pulled and missed on. Just as I finished saying, hopefully we'll get into another bite here, Antonio set the hook and he reeled that fish in before we even had a chance to get the camera.
It's a rainbow.
A little rainbow, eh? Oh, that's a beautiful, nice little fish right there, Antonio. Took the row bag?
Took the reel.
Well, we didn't have too bad of a day. Coming here for a little time like so, a nice brown trout, a nice little rainbow. Had one other bite, but we just couldn't entice the salmon to biting. And like I say, they're typically not on the bite right now this time of year. But it sure would have been nice to entice one into biting. But I got to tell you, what a relaxful night. An hour and change out here on the water. I absolutely love it. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, folks, to Thundermist Fishing Tips. It's always nice to spend time with you. And as always, until next time, good luck, good fishing.